burial ground. Today, what we're going to do is not get hit by a car. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to take a tour inside one of the most historic burial grounds, not only in Philadelphia, but in the United States. There are 5 signers of the Declaration. 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence buried here. We're just going to walk around. We're going to enjoy the sights. We're going to learn about the dead people buried at this cemetery. That's a lot more than Ben Franklin. Just so you know, admission to the cemetery is $5. It goes to the church, and then they preserve a lot of the old graves, so it's money well spent. What is this? Oh, let me get close. Oh, it smells like it. Oh, it feels like it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Flemish Bond. As we walk through the gates and we enter the cemetery, I want to tell you about one of the most important Americans of all time. Not Ben Franklin, but John Bon Jovi. 5 years ago, the gravestone on top of Ben Franklin's grave was starting to cave in. It was also damaged by pennies that were thrown on Ben Franklin's grave. The church started a GoFundMe to help restore the grave. John Bon Jovi came to the rescue and donated $5,000 to help save this gravestone. The gravestone was saved, and they also put on a coating so pennies could no longer damage the stone. You may not know this name, but William Kummak was responsible for one of your grade school field trips. Dr. William Kummak was a Philadelphia physician who wanted to have animals on display so the public could look at them and also scientists could study them. In 1859, a charter was passed to start the first zoo in America. The zoo was opened in 1874, and admission was only a quarter. This is the grave of Dr. Benjamin Rush. He was not only a signer of the Declaration of Independence, he was the first professor of chemistry in America. He changed the way mental illness was treated in colonial America. He also published the first textbook on psychiatry in the United States, giving him the nickname, the Father of American Psychiatry. This grave belongs to Dr. Philip Physic. He was the doctor to presidents, the doctor to Supreme Court justices, and he was the doctor to Dr. Benjamin Rush, who was only buried 4 feet away from him. Dr. Physic is known as the father of American surgery. He was also responsible for taking fruit syrup and adding it to carbonated water to help stomach pain. You know that stuff today as soda. Joseph Hughes is a signer of the Declaration of Independence. His grave is right next to George Ross, who also signed the Declaration of Independence. If you take a step back and turn to the right, you will come to the grave of John Taylor. He did not sign the Declaration of Independence, but he did dig the grave for those 2 guys who signed the Declaration of Independence, and probably all these graves here. Whenever you go to one of these old cemeteries, notice how tightly packed the graves are. In the older cemeteries in Philadelphia, if you see an open space like this, the odds are it's a mass burial ground for yellow fever victims. Former mayor of Philadelphia, Samuel Powell, died of the yellow fever. It is said his wife, Elizabeth, is the person who talked George Washington into running for a second term for president. Matthew Clarkson was the mayor of Philadelphia during the yellow fever epidemic. John Dunlap was the very first printer of the Declaration of Independence that was signed by Benjamin Franklin, who was only buried 10 yards away. Francis Hopkinson also signed the Declaration of Independence. Joseph Hughes and George Ross also are signers. Dr. Rush is also a signer, meaning this burial ground has more signers of the Declaration of Independence than any burial ground in the world. Well, America. Where else would they be? And this is what their signatures look like on that historic document. Robert Morris and James Wilson are not buried at this burial ground, but they are buried next to Christ Church itself, a few streets away. In the 1800s, some officials from the city of Boston tried to have Benjamin Franklin's remains removed from the city of Philadelphia and transferred to a cemetery in Boston. They said you could not even see Benjamin Franklin's grave when you walked past the burial ground. So to keep Benjamin Franklin's remains, they put in this fence. And this is the churchyard of Christ Church on 2nd Street. Robert Morris, the financier of the American Revolution and signer of the Declaration, is buried here. James Wilson, the other signer of the Declaration of Independence, is buried on this side of the church. Well, that's it. That's our day at Christ Church. I'm going to be doing a lot of cemeteries in October, so if you like cemeteries, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll sail with you later. Toodles!